This patio was laid just 3 years ago, and if I'm honest, it's in a bit of a state. In today's video, I'm going to outline every single mistake that I've made in the maintenance and cleaning of this patio, so you don't have to go through those mistakes yourself. And I'm going to do something at the end, which will make it, hopefully, a lot easier to look after going forward. The patio slabs themselves were laid in a sort of dot and dab method like this, rather than a continuous bed as they should have been. Now, I didn't know this at the time, and if my builder had given me the two options, it could have been a bit of a financial issue because obviously it's going to cost a lot more with the sand and cement to do a continuous bed. The dot and dab structure made it really easy for them to get things level, but as you might have seen if you watched last year's video, I had a whole corner of the patio that started collapsing. And worse still is that if you have this structure, you've got lots of cavities below the patio. And with these cavities, you can't use brilliant products like Flow Point because the whole lot would just drain down below. So here's me redoing that area with a continuous bed and also applying a slurry primer to the rear of the slab, which was also missing, which meant that some of the slabs came loose. I'm going to regret this one forever. I applied the wrong jointing mortar. Why? Because I was recommended this stuff by the company I got my Sandstone slabs from. These resin-based mortars are everywhere on the market. They've caught so many of us out. Why? Because the common misconception is, like my builders did here, you just brush it into the gaps. Wrong! Mine should have been wet first. Here's me doing it properly after reading the instructions and heavily compressed into each gap. It wasn't, the joints failed, and now I've got weeds growing up everywhere on this top patio section. But if you have got one of these resin-based jointing compounds, read the instructions carefully because every single one has a slightly different method of application. I did a better job of it down below where I actually followed the instructions, and to be fair on A-joint, it's lasted a lot better down here. But I do not like this stuff. Its loose granular structure makes it very susceptible to weed growth and breakdown when compared to that sand and cement section I redid last summer. Why am I telling you this? Because these two mistakes impact massively on the ongoing maintenance of my patio, as we'll come on to now. Bad maintenance. And what are we talking about here? Well, if you're anything like me, you look at cleaning your patio as one of those jobs that you tolerate but certainly don't look forward to. So literally all I bother doing when it comes to getting it ready for the summer is to pick what I thought was the only nozzle on my Ava of Norway pressure washer. Turns out this is the turbo nozzle, and just off I go with it, give the patio a good clean, and that's pretty much it for the summer. What am I doing wrong here? Well, firstly, this turbo nozzle is one of the most abrasive nozzle on this brilliant pressure washer. We'll come on to this in a minute. It's for sort of what they call salvage cleans, where you want the most power and abrasion on your patio. The problem with this is, as you can see me using it here, what it's doing is it's opening up the surface of the patio. Not to mention pulverizing those resin mortar joints. So it's quicker to use than a more gentle nozzle, but the more you open up those pores, the more susceptible it is to grime, algae, moss and the like. And all the stuff that's going to prey on it from the moment you clean it through to the next year when you do so again. What are the other alternatives, I hear you ask? Well, I'm going to come on to them now, and I'm going to set out every single step that I think you need to take to make the cleaning of your patio as easy as possible and its maintenance as simple as possible going forward. First up, the all-important weed killing. The plan today is to treat this area with this stuff. I don't know if it's the best, I'm no gardening expert. And because my spray pack has already got wet and forget in it, more on that in a minute, I've bought one of these for the job. I find it most cost effective to buy my own sprayer rather than buy the weed killer that has the sprayer integrated into the bottle. I've used this Spear & Jackson sprayer for years now, thoroughly recommend it, and I've posted a link in the description for smaller jobs like this. For bigger jobs, you might want to invest in a backpack sprayer. If you've got time, you should treat the weeds and moss at least a week prior to your major clean, or at least in line with instructions, and you want to allow a good 12 hours of dry weather after applying. A week later and the weed and moss killer had done its job, and I could carry on with the cleaning. Well, not quite. I've got one more thing to tell you about. Right, wet and forget. This stuff is game changing. Used it last year, got rid of all the moss and algae. If I had the luxury, I would literally just spray this on and leave it, and that would do everything. But unfortunately, I'm also wanting to show you how I've cleaned my patio. So I'm going to apply this to the areas on the wall where I've still got algae, mold, lichen, and yeah, the floor hopefully will be taken care of with the with the weed killer we've just applied. As the name suggests, you just wet and forget, and a week later you can already see the impact it's having. And this is a really good non-invasive way of cleaning patios and other surfaces that you're worried might disintegrate if you use a pressure washer. And if you are worried, here's another great tip. I've applied cleaner to decking before pressure washing, so why haven't I done it for patios? It makes perfect sense, because don't forget, what we're trying to do here is come up with a maintenance solution which is as kind to the surface of your stone, whether it's Raj Green Engine Sandstone like this or some other stone, as possible, so as not to open it up too much. Today I'm using this, but any proprietary patio cleaner would do. And considering I've owned this pressure washer for about 3 years now, it's crazy I've never used this foam cannon before. You can adjust the amount of foam expelled, connect it to the lance, and you're good to go. All I needed now was some rain to drench the patio and soften up that dirt, and perfectly on cue, this happened. I got it on a very low setting here as I was concerned about using the cleaner too close to the plants in the border, but I love this tool and was very impressed with how much control it gave me. Imagine the benefits of this when cleaning your car. Wasn't quite done here yet, I now had to agitate the surface. Agitator number 1, my Osmo deck cleaning brush. If that's too small, got one of these. The broom is obviously much quicker but takes more effort, and as this is the most tedious and exhausting job I could imagine, I settled on the deck scrubber and decided I need to find a motorised option for the rest of the patio. Hopefully there'll be an update on that before the end of this video. So what you're trying to do with your patio is clean it as gently as possible. Now this is a good way to start because you're agitating the dirt, making it easier to get off the surface. But the other thing that I'm doing this time round is I'm using this Vario nozzle, which has 3 settings. It's got a 20 degree for a deep clean, but gentler than that turbo nozzle salvage clean. Next up, this 60 degree setting, a wider arc but less powerful. And finally the rinse setting that has a much more gentle jet. Having cleaned the patio with the cleaner and given it a good brush, I'm hoping I can get away with using this nozzle rather than the turbo nozzle. And then there's another procedure I'm going to show you at the end, which is going to hopefully safeguard the future of this patio and make it really, really easy to clean each spring. So none of this hard graft will be necessary. Let's see how we get on. And actually the 20 degree nozzle worked just fine. Yes, you have to hover longer than you would with a more abrasive nozzle like the turbo, but it got the job done. And it cleaned all the weeds out of those failing resin mortar joints without ripping out the mortar. What a discovery! I've had this nozzle for about 3 years now and I've never used it properly. That is why I do YouTube videos. And slowly but surely, I had a beautifully clean patio. And the transformation was pretty dramatic. But we weren't finished there. I still had nearly 54 square meters to go. This time, with no rain in sight, it was a job of the hosepipe to drench the patio, followed by, as usual, the patio cleaner, far too much hard graft on the scrubbing, and then again, it was out with a 20 degree Vario nozzle. Quick extension of the lance, I forgot I could do that, and then switched to the rinsing nozzle. The difference between cleaned and non-cleaned was pretty stark. I've got a bit of a nightmare. When I was treating these bricks with my Emperor cream, I was a bit slapdash. Just a little salutary lesson to you all. If you're using this cream, don't get it everywhere. Who knows though, we might be able to make it look better. More on that later. One more session to go, but I'm not starting that until a certain toy arrives, because I'm not doing any more scrubbing. Still got all of this area to do, but help is at hand. Or so I'm hoping, in the shape of this. As you probably know, I've been using Skilled Tools for a few years now, and a bit of searching revealed a patio cleaner which worked off the 20-volt batteries, of which I've got quite a few. It took 2 weeks to arrive from Tool Nation in the Netherlands. I guess we've got Brexit to thank for that, but customer service was quick and responsive on my progress checks. I've grown to really hate the job of scrubbing the patio, and this agitated it effortlessly with minimal battery drain, and suddenly the epic job of cleaning over 92 square meters of patio was complete. So that's all well and good. I've cleaned this patio more carefully this year than ever before. But to what end? How do we stop that dirt coming back exactly the same way next year. So we've got to do the same thing all over again. And that's when I turned my attention to maybe applying some sort of a sealer. Now, I've heard of patio sealers in the past. There are quite a lot out there, but I've always been a bit scared of applying a sealer to a natural material like Indian sandstone. It was therefore really important I got this right, and after extensive research I went for this ResiBlock, widely regarded to be one of the best products on the market. But there was another problem. You've got two options when you seal a patio with the stuff I've chosen today. There's an invisible version and there's this enhancer. We're having a bit of a domestic. My wife has said that she doesn't want the sandstone to look wet or enhanced. Now, I'll explain why I went for the enhanced version in a minute, but I thought I'd experiment on some offcuts to see how a sealed stone compares to the original. I left it out to dry for a few hours and we both agreed the colour change wasn't too dramatic. And so, with near perfect conditions of a few days guaranteed dry weather, because you need at least 8 hours dry weather after applying, it was all systems go. I thought I'd start on the steps, and it's good to have a mini roller handy for small or tricky to reach areas. There's some pretty important things to remember when doing this, and as you can see here, I'm applying this sealant one stone at a time, and there was a good reason for this. Temperatures have been soaring here in the UK recently, and the warmer it is, the quicker the solvents in the sealer will evaporate. So if you accidentally leave excess sealant on the surface like this, or even splashes like this for too long before working them in, like I did when temperatures were in the high 20s last weekend, you're going to end up with glossy areas where it's dried too quickly. And any low points like this, make sure you've got a builder's sponge handy to quickly wipe away the excess. I didn't do this, and so unfortunately I've got a few glossy areas. None of this would have happened if I'd applied in the morning, evening, or on an overcast day. Right, I've just finished the top sort of level of the patio, and I'm not going to lie, when I was putting it down, I was a bit worried. My wife's out shopping at the moment, and I was panicking what she was going to say when she got home. But now that it's sunk in and under the heat of the sun, it's looking pretty good. That area hasn't been done yet, so you can see the difference. And just to give you an idea of quantities, that patio there has taken pretty much one tin. Done a little bit of the steps as well with this, but you get the idea. And with the temperature getting uncomfortably close to 30 degrees, I pressed on with the rest of the patio. As I said just now, I should have waited for the morning or early evening. But anyway, finally it was done. Now, I said to you I was going to explain why I went with a colour enhancer rather than the invisible sealer. And this is an important thing to talk about because it's very tied in to me making sure I've provided you with the most effective way to make your patio maintenance free going forward. If I was to say to you that my wife and I were initially a bit disappointed that the patio had become darker, and also that the invisible version is breathable, you'd be saying, "Oh my God, you've made the wrong decision here," wouldn't you? Well, I was starting to think that until I delved down into the technical detail of these products. Breathable coatings became really important for walls when we started to worry about moisture transfer and preventing damp, mold and condensation. And my word, I've done a lot of videos on this, but they're a nonsense when it comes to flat surfaces. And you've only got to look at British Standard 7533 Part 4 to understand that the holy grail on flat surfaces like this is to prevent moisture getting in. Now, the problem with a breathable coating on a horizontal surface is, by definition, the pores of the surface are remaining more open. So what's the point in sealing a patio with something which in a year's time is going to let lots of dirt in? You're not going to be very happy with me, and I wouldn't have been very happy with myself if I'd spent a lot of money on a product that is still going to require a lot of pressure washing to remove the dirt. And it was this point that made me start to love that slightly darker colour enhanced look that we've got from this polyurethane style coating. Particularly now that I know of the enhanced protection, but also reduced maintenance that this sealer is providing. Not only that, the Emperor cream stain and all the other stains that littered the patio are so much less noticeable now the enhancer has been applied. Oh, and I used just under 2 tins in the end. Not bad coverage for 92 square metres of patio. I'm going to do another video in a year's time with a bit of an update. Any of you out there who've got views on this, having either used this or similar products, colour enhancers or invisible, please let us know how you've got on in the comment section below, because it will really help to inform anyone who's looking at this video wondering what to buy. So I hope you found today's video useful. Details, as usual, will be in the description below the video of everything I've used today. And if you're new to my channel, it would mean so much to me to have you subscribe. You can click on the link here, and don't forget to click the bell notification icon so you get notified of all my future uploads. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.